We're the Greers. I'm Eric. This is my wife, Chesley. We have 3 kids, Lucy, who is 13, our son, Lincoln, who is 12, and our youngest, Georgia, who is 8 years old. I became a believer at the age of about 26. Even though I'd been in church my entire life, my parents were believers, heavily involved. We were at church consistently. If the doors were open, we were there, kind of a thing. But I didn't accept Christ till I was well into my adulthood.
And I was saved whenever I was 10 years old. So one of our biggest prayers has always been that our children would accept Christ at an early age, just because Eric was older. Our
son, Lincoln, he became a believer, I think about 3 or so years ago, when he was about 8 or 9 years old. Here at church, he actually, during the new believers class, he decided to accept Christ, ultimately got baptized as well here at church. But it's especially our oldest girl, is taking her a little bit longer.
So Lucy took the same new believers class maybe a year before Lincoln, but anytime you would ask her a question about it, she would deflect. She's very smart, very intelligent, but she did not want to talk about a relationship with Christ. And any time that would come up, she would change the subject. So we kind of had to just pray for her and look for opportunities to talk to her, which didn't come near as much as I wanted them to. So as she turned 13 last May, and she was heading to Caswell, it was on my mind a lot. And I was praying a lot. I know there were so many people in the church that were praying. There were youth workers who were praying for Lucy. There were so many of her friends in her youth group that were praying for her. One of our message series has been on the one, praying for those people in your life, the individuals that you want. And I know so many of her friends had her listed as their one that they were praying for. When the kids go to camp, you get a bracelet. You can go down front and get a bracelet, and you pray for that child that week while they're at camp. I know 2 of our members, Jane and Dennis Gillen, had went down individually. They're a couple, but they went down individually and both got a bracelet with Lucy's name. And so that week they had prayed individually, but they had also prayed together for her. So it was such a big deal when that call came on that Tuesday night, and I heard Lucy's voice. And she got to be at Caswell with her friends, and they got to celebrate this with her. And they got to mark her name off of their prayer journals where she had been their one. The next part of that story is her sister, Georgia, who's 8. Georgia had never really asked a lot of questions, but she was very aware of Jesus loved her. But we had never really had a deep discussion with her because we didn't think she was ready to have a discussion like that. She had not taken the New Believers class, probably something she would have done sometime soon. But the night that Lucy was saved, later on that night, Georgia come up to me and she said, "I want to be baptized with Lucy." And I said, "Well, that is a great idea, but I don't know if right now is the time." So we talked a little bit. I didn't feel like she was ready that night to make a decision, and I kind of told her, just keep thinking about it and ask questions. She had never asked any kind of questions about that before. So over the next couple weeks, and there's just maybe a 3-week difference between Caswell, where the youth go to camp, and children's camp, where the smaller kids go to camp. And over those couple weeks, she did ask some questions to all of us. I think she asked Lucy questions and Lincoln questions, and maybe even Caroline questions. Anybody she could think of, she was asking questions. And so when it come time for her to go to camp and they got the bracelets, she had Dania Moody, who's in our church. She had gotten Georgia's name on the bracelet. She texted me and said, "How can I pray for Georgia?" And I said, "I know exactly how you can pray." And she said, "I'm on it." And so she had been praying. I know she was praying for Georgia. I know so many of the kids' camp workers were praying for her. Christina White was her counselor. Christina was on it. She was definitely praying for Georgia. And Georgia did not make a decision during a service. She made a decision late one night in the cabin surrounded by the girls. And it was a very sweet moment. I was not in there with her at the time, but I think it was Christina was able to get all the little girls involved, and they came around and they led Georgia in prayer. All those little girls were able to come around and lead Georgia in that prayer. And it, from what I understand, and I wasn't in the room, but from what Christina and some of the other counselors that were in that room have told me, all those little girls are going to remember that for the rest of their life, and they got to take part in that. And what a big moment it was for Georgia.
Our son got saved here at church, as I mentioned earlier, but both our girls getting saved at camp. Just knowing the personalities of them, especially our oldest, I don't know that she would have ever gotten saved in a traditional worship service at church. Just knowing her, just how she is, how she doesn't like the spotlight at all, anything like that. So I would encourage everybody, if you have youth, children, and maybe on the fence about sending them to camp and being away from them, and I get that as a parent as well, but I would really encourage you to send your kids. It's amazing how many close friends we have now that are such a big part of our lives, our kids' lives, who before we stepped foot in the church we didn't even know, and it's just been an awesome thing for us to be involved and serving. And I would encourage anybody that's watching and listening and maybe attending church or maybe coming to and maybe kind of has one foot in, one foot out, that to get involved, because that's when you're going to make true relationships with people, and that's when they're going to be able to speak into your life and you speak into their lives as you go through struggles such as kids struggling to accept Christ and the decisions they're making in life. But this church has been a huge blessing.